Hi, my name is Ryan Larson, and the topic I will be discussing today is water conservation and safety in California. My research question is, what is the current state of water conservation and safety in California, and what are the potential threats to it in 2024? To answer this question, I conducted an in-depth interview with a colleague of mine with years of experience in California's water issues. To prepare for this interview, the first step was recruiting the participant. I previously established a relationship with the participant and so reached out to him via private text to ask if he'd like to participate. He thankfully accepted, and that led us to step two, planning the interview. We established a time and place to conduct the interview. With me and the participant living in close proximity to each other, we conducted the interview in person. I then drafted 10 main questions and two sub-questions per main and created a consent form, which explained the interview would have audio and video recording, but that only I would see or hear it, as well as no personal information of the participant will be released. Finally, me and the participant met at our pre-designated time and location. I reinforced the participant about the nature of the interview, how long it would last, and presented the consent form to sign, which they did. Our interview lasted 55 minutes. Here are some characteristics about the participant. He's a male in his mid-20s, a resident of both Southern and Central California. He obtained his master's in agriculture engineering. He's a lecturer in agriculture at a California State University and helped this university's agriculture production through improvement of the school's irrigation systems. Some quotes from the interview that struck me were there are indigenous communities in the Central Valley that in 20 to 30, 40, 50 years might disappear because the water quality is degrading, harming agricultural production. This was in response to the question of who could potentially be harmed by these water issues. Where is your water going to your dinner plate? It provides the lettuce, tomatoes, and economy for other counties who is affected by these issues as well. We have an impending reality that if we continue to farm like your grandpa did, California won't be doing well sustainability-wise. How well are these issues known? We have the technology now to, instead of ripping out whole ecosystems, we can adapt to these environments. What are some potential solutions to these issues? Just because California has more water doesn't mean a farmer should decide to plant 80 acres of almonds or pistachios. That water should be allocated to communities that have been waiting for it for a long time. What is the response to these implementations of these solutions? And if you provide a service water to everybody, there will be bad actors, bad people who take advantage of that. How can we reduce that transparency? What can we do as Californians? The main findings of the interview were that the biggest threats to California's water were balancing who gets water and the consequences of that balancing. Specifically, smaller farmers and communities versus bigger farmers and communities. As previously stated in the other slide, there are some indigenous communities and smaller communities in general and smaller farmers that are at risk of being wiped out due to lacking access to clean, sustainable water. They're often dealing with water that has bromide or arsenic, which is incredibly unhealthy for you and can lead to long-lasting health problems. There's also a lack of transparency from farmers, businesses, and communities on how much water they're getting, and again, the quality of that water. While there are some cities and towns that promote and publish the safety of their water, most communities don't, and that is a big issue. Water is also a politicized issue in the state. The both sides of the aisle need to be able to come together because at the end of the day, we are one community, and that water is being used by both sides. There's also greater water usage post-drought. This is something we need to take care of for farmers and for regular people. Just because we have water post 2023 doesn't mean that we should be willy-nilly using it. This was a pie chart that my participants suggested I create. It explains the water usage in California, which is that 40% and is used by agriculture, 40% is used by the environment to maintain those habitats, and 20% is actually used by urban communities such as us. This to me was actually an unexpected finding because I expected the urban side to be a lot higher. However, it makes sense because if you think of all the nature and rivers, waterbeds, habitats that need to be taken care of, that makes sense for environment. And as for agriculture, California is a massive agriculture producer, and so it makes sense that we are using that much water. Some future research we should look into is toilet to tap program across the state. This would be a program, or this is a program used currently in Orange County, which converts sewage water into clean drinking water. This would help out in a lot of cities that have, and in general, smaller towns that lack access to water. It would bring that water to them. There's also desalination programs that we can invest in. Desalination programs are mainly used in coastal towns. However, an issue of them would be how expensive they are, as well as the potential harm to marine wildlife. If these are issues that can be solved, it'd be a lot more feasible, especially in urban areas, which are a majority of where the population in California lives. There's also SGMA, which is a Sustainable Groundwater Management Act that needs to be pushed through. It was originally intended and passed in 2014 and to be fully implemented in 20 years from now. However, there are 26 counties that have yet to do the requirements for SGMA, and that's mainly in the Central California area. What SGMA would do is maintain the groundwater levels and specifically prevent drying out as well as seawater from contaminating those areas. In conclusion, the main takeaways from this interview should be that California is doing a lot better when it comes to water conservation, but greater efforts need to be made about water safety and fairly allocating water to smaller communities and farmers. Water should not be a politicized issue. After all, we are one state and one community. We have the resources and personnel to continue creating a positive future for water in California.